No,
Okay.
I'm not gonna, I'm not doing that before we have a budget. When
Thank
we
you.
have a budget,
We don't have that.
right, we don't have a budget.
Okay, great. Okay, first presentation is the auditor's presentation.
Was it on? You don't like it?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager, the CFO. A couple of brief comments on some of the deadlines that have been extended by the state for the budget. The Mayor had mentioned previously about the introduction date. I think maybe the manager also commented on that. That's been revised from January 15th to February 7th. So you have until February 7th to formally introduce the budget to the council. And then the council has now until March 14th to do their formal introduction/approval meeting. The adoption on the budget is extended until April 25th. And normally, the state has allowed the next meeting afterwards, which Chris and I have worked out to be, I guess, the 29th. Right. So that would be the shoot-for date for the adoption. For this budget year, you're eligible for self-exam, which kind of speeds the process up a little bit down at the state level.
It's every 3 years? Is that every 3 years?
Yes. Depending upon if you meet all the criteria,
Right.
but in your case, you do. The state aid numbers, commonly called COMTRA, will be released right after the governor's budget on February 25th. Right after that, on the 28th, I gave the CFO the information, which I'm sure she already had, on the webinar. They're doing a webinar that everyone could participate in and find out directly from the state what their estimates are for state aid. That'd be on February 28th. That webinar is
It's under an hour,
under an hour.
1
Yeah.
o'clock to 1:50. So invite anybody.
Sure. Yep. That was really it, unless anyone has any direct questions.
Can I just add?
Sure.
To be adopted by the middle of May.
They're suggesting the adoption date to be April 25th or the next following meeting, which would be April 29th.
In April.
Yes, that's their recommendation.
Or what, I'm sorry.
And then after if you have an amendment process which extends that, then that would, of course, change that date.
And if we don't, I've always discussed, we'd like to have these budget conversations. There should be more than just 4 weeks in January. What happens if we don't? Last year, there was a conversation and we were behind schedule. We're in a possible default. What happens if we're waiting on numbers? We want to go through a thorough review. There was talk about that, not people were,
Go ahead. What is it?
it was from people in the audience. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not you. Relax. It wasn't the mayor that discussed the default. What is the default? You didn't mention it. You said suggestion. What is this process, which we're waiting on a lot of information, and we want to have some very healthy dialogue back and forth and with the community, or hopefully with the community emails and talks to us. When do we have to get it voted into? Have to, not suggested. You use the word suggest.
Yes,
No
the
one
state,
suggests.
the state suggests April 25th. That's their statutory deadline. So
I don't
that
listen to
is-
suggestions. What's the rule?
That is a rule, yes.
So it's not a suggestion, it's the rule.
It's the suggestion.
It's a suggested rule.
By the 25th.
Can I
The
just jump
deadline
in?
is the next meeting.
So if we
the
can't
29th.
cancel this, if we cancel our May 6th meeting, we don't have to do it till May 20th.
No.
Sorry, if we cancel our April 29th meeting, we don't have to do it till May 20th. Yeah.
They have allowed, the leeway has been, if you are adopting at the next scheduled meeting after the statutory deadline. So in this particular instance, when Chris and I were just looking at the calendar, if we couldn't do it on the 25th, you would have to do it on the 29th.
Understood.
Unless you were in the amendment process, if you were waiting for another meeting for the amendment. If you introduced it, you have a public hearing on the 25th. You're all set to adopt, and then an amendment gets brought up, which, as you know, you would have to vote on, introducing the amendment.
Right.
And then it might or might not have to be advertised, depending upon the size of the amendment, depending upon if the state brought the amendment up or you brought it up yourselves. Depending upon all those things, then it
Got
would
it.
either be the next meeting, or as you said, would be maybe in May.
Got it.
There have been budgets adopted in the state of New Jersey past the statutory deadline in other municipalities.
And many municipalities have adopted them in September, October.
Yeah,
Wait.
we're not doing that. Stop
No,
saying
we're
that.
not.
Just stop.
No.
I mean,
Well,
all
let
you
me-
guys default, September, you're
well-
giving them a